Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show on Pursuit Channel and Wild TV. You are now tuned into our weekly podcast hosted by executive producer Kyle Green, production coordinator Jeff Hutchinson, director AJ Beadle, and creative producer Ryan Parks. We live in a world where our natural resources are almost solely protected by funds raised by hunters and fishermen. With over 60% of those funds coming from white males over the age of 55, the Greenway Outdoors team has set out on a mission to create content that would inspire millennials, Generation Z, and new sportsmen and women to get out, hunt, fish, and contribute towards conservation and the betterment of our planet. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. Hello and welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. This is episode number 32. I'm Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
And Jeff's walking in. I think he had to go potty.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I don't really pay attention to him very much.
Everyone raise your hand if you miss him. Crickets.
I'll wait.
If we had the foresight to put a cricket sound in...
Yeah, we need a soundboard.
We'd be doing it. Yeah, like they had like the old radio shows where it's like, what's that? They like do it, you know what I'm talking about? That would be pretty cool.
I wish we had sound clips now.
So, 4th of July, we just came and went.
Mm-hmm.
Came and went?
What'd you guys do?
Well, I was not so lucky to come across this weird sickness that happens in summertime. I don't get sick, and I was plagued by it for a good 3 days. And
was it like the flu?
The last time you got sick was that debacle up north, right?
That was literally the last time.
People don't forget.
Yeah, it was just pressurized congestion to the max.
Like in the head kind of thing?
Yeah, just lethargic and fatigued. I enjoyed some fireworks, and I mean, that's 4th of July is one of my favorite, if not my favorite holiday.
I love the
4th
of July.
It's just a riot.
How about you, Ray?
Well, just hung out with friends, and then went and watched fireworks on the 4th, but...
Did you go with a girl?
I went with lots of girls.
Did you kiss any of them?
Rolls.
I kissed all of them.
Duh.
Duh. That's what I do. No, but a few days before that, me and AJ were talking about it. I went skydiving, and that was awesome.
What?
Yeah.
Talk about it, because I've been dying to hear about this.
I recommend it to anyone. No matter how afraid you are, just do it, because it is the coolest thing ever. It's
true.
As soon as you fall out of that plane, it's just...
Did you have, like, the dude on your back?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Jeez, the thought of it, dude. I want to do it, but ugh.
No,
Jesus, it freaks me out.
I didn't,
you could do it.
I didn't get that nervous beforehand, because, like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Correct.
So... if you just go in with that thought,
right?
It's gonna be great.
Once you're falling, I mean, you're helpless.
That's it.
My trust is in this guy.
Yeah,
just get me down there, but I'm gonna enjoy my time.
But
falling out of the sky.
Free fall is like 120 miles an hour, and it is the most peaceful 120 miles an hour you'll ever feel in your entire life. Yeah. Just looking, it is the most beautiful thing.
That's not true. Remember that one time I was driving the truck and I fell asleep and everyone's crying? I was kidding.
I was pretty peaceful. That's because I was sleeping too.
There's an old joke that my dad used to tell. He said, "You know what? I hope I die peacefully in my sleep like my grandfather, not like the other 3 people in the car yelling and screaming trying to wake him up."
Wow.
It is very.
That sounds like something that would happen to me.
Great Phil joke.
So they so you jumped out of the plane. You did it with your grandfather, you said, right?
Well, he wanted to do it for his 80th birthday, and I said that I would go do it with him. So we did, and we
That's awesome.
Just plummeted towards Earth together.
Gravity, man.
How was his landing? I mean, like an 80-year-old's got some soft bones.
Mine wasn't very smooth. So
really?
Yeah, no,
my butt never...
Did everybody here skydive but me and Jeffrey?
It looks like it.
We landed it on our feet. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I think...
you had your grandpa on your back?
No.
I was like, that was your trust guy?
No. So we both had our own, like, I guess, jump masters. And
Jump Master 3000. Yep. Like, I don't know why I decided to name it.
It's a cool name.
We're getting ready to land.
And I think he landed on his butt. They kind of just slid in, but it wasn't very rough landing or anything. But my guy, he did a good job, and me and him both landed on our feet. We never
What about your
touched
grandpa?
the ground. Were you listening?
Just said.
No, I tuned right out. I got a message from our agent, and I just...
Nothing else mattered. No, they kind of slid in on their butts.
That's how I did it.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. It didn't look...
You don't even need your tailbone. They say that
it hurts.
I mean, it was really cool you had to say that a second time. That's neat.
Yeah.
I think it was cool that I didn't listen.
Yeah.
Jeff, what'd you do for the 4th of July?
For the 4th of July, I went up to Traverse City, went to the Cherry Fest, and I got to eat some cherries. I got to cut my feet on some zebra mussels, which I didn't know was a thing.
Oh, I did that too.
definitely
They're
a
much
thing.
worse than the ocean.
I've stepped on them hundreds of times, never bothered me. This time they sliced my feet up good.
It's when they pair up.
They got. So I
they're out to
look
get
and I'm
you.
like,
Step on one, it's
how
not a
did I
big
get
deal,
a
but you
bunch
get
of
it.
little paper cuts on my feet, and then they started bleeding, then they got infected, and then I walked
Yours
away for
would get
2 days.
infected. He's such a dirty individual.
It wasn't the zebra mussels or the fact that I was in a lake. No.
That happened to me too.
Are we the cherry capital of the U.S.?
I think so.
I think
Traverse
so.
City might be, yeah.
I think it might be that might be dying though because hops are like beer hops are replacing all that.
Interesting.
It's got
Yeah.
way more hops.
We got a lot of craft
Yeah,
So-
beer
super
and
bad.
stuff.
Anyone catch the super hops?
changed the way movies were made.
Changed the way movies are made.
It did. Superbad did. I'm telling you.
There's a lot of YouTube videos that are for that say that.
Right.
I've seen them.
You caught some fish?
Yeah, I caught some bass, some pike,
It's an outdoor show. You think you'd open with that, but
some crappie, and perch, which was weird. I'd never caught a perch in that lake before, but
okay. How
Yeah.
big was the perch?
it was about solid about 4 inches.
Okay.
Wow.
That big?
It is for some.
I was
I'm just
attempting.
kidding.
I was
No,
attempting to.
It's a bad. Whoa.
I was attempting to troll in a kayak,
Okay.
and which number one didn't work out very well, as
Nope.
it turns out.
Would you use crawler harness?
Yeah. And I somehow he managed to get the hook in his mouth, which I didn't think was possible, and brought him in.
It's funny. Perch and crappie always amaze me what they can get in their faces.
So aggressive.
They got their bigger mouths than like your bluegills.
Crappie or perch?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Now crappie. So around the United States, everyone calls a crappie or a paper mouth or.
Because I remember the ones in Texas.
Yeah, but perch is a.
Slabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, those things were monsters. The ones we got in Texas were all 12 inches plus.
That's right.
If you got any one of those in Michigan, you'd be like, master. You're like in the newspapers and stuff. In Texas, it's like a normal keeper. But the word perch is interesting because yellow perch is what we call perch, but in Texas, they got their verbiage all messed up down there, and pretty much anywhere else besides Michigan.
Call ponds, tanks. They call all sorts of weird
yeah, but
things.
they'll call a bluegill a perch.
That's the one I was.
And I'll never forget when we went catfishing the first time we were doing trot lines.
Yeah.
And we were, he goes, go in the bucket there and grab me a perch. So I go, for the bait. So I go over there and there's just bluegills in here. And I thought I was tricking. I go,
I don't see any.
is there another bucket that I don't, I go, these are all bluegills. And he goes, I go, there's no perch in here. He goes, what? Did you dump them out? And he's like, it was the guy with no teeth.
Oh, yeah.
And
The bald one that someone tried to kill.
The
Jeff tried to kill
Someone.
on accident, not on purpose.
I don't think that was me.
I think it was you.
You sure?
We
I'm
got
not
pi-
taking credit for that.
The other picture is where he didn't trust us, so it was you. But anyhow, I go. He comes over. He goes, "They're all right there." I go, "Those are bluegills." He goes, "Tails a bluegill."
What are you talking about?
I was like, oh, we're
You
speaking.
been smoking something, boy?
So we're speaking different languages, but it turns out, yeah,
Same thing.
Yellow perch, which is a longer, skinnier fish with a bass-like body with stripes down the side, very yellow body with stripes perpendicular down the body. Is
Yep. Good word.
nailed it. Yeah.
Good word.
I was like, I'm gonna use it. I thought about it. Nope, I'm good. And that's what a perch is, but they've got bigger mouths, and so do crappies. So when you're fishing, it always surprises
Sounds
me.
like somebody I know.
The biggest crappie I ever caught in Michigan was on a 6-inch Rapala perch bait. That's not a crappie bait. That's a pike bait all day long, maybe bass. And I caught a perch on it, or a crappie on it. It was like a 12-inch crappie in Michigan. I was like,
so
oh
yeah.
my god! But it's just
Big-
fun.
big one.
It always amazes me what they'll fit in their mouths. When the last few weeks actually, good one, Ryan. The last few weeks actually, your mom's watching, buddy. But when you watch this past weekend, I went, spent some time up north with my family in Kalkaska. Then the following weekend after that, I went to, so that was 2 weeks ago. Then the following weekend after that, I went up north with Scott to his cottage in Gladwin. And then the following weekend, I went up north with a bunch of friends to Caseville. So in Kalkaska, I was brook trout fishing. I brook trout fished every single day.
and I did.
Nice.
It was the best fishing extravaganza that I've ever had.
You guys did awesome.
We did good on Manistee Lake in Kalkaska, which is never good.
remember
It
you telling me that last
used to
year.
be, but
You get whatever you get a good one.
Yeah.
But then you don't get a whole lot.
yeah,
else.
like we caught 5 bluegills the whole week, but all of them were over
You mean
10.
perch?
Yeah, right. All of them are over 10
Stupid.
inches, which is master angler in Michigan, I think, is 9 inches. So that
Really?
means you're on the website. We didn't catch one that wasn't a master angler, but we didn't catch anything else. You know, it's like that lake where like the quality of what you get is like, holy crap, I've never seen anything. But we got one pike out of there. It was like 36 inches. We got, you know, so this year we went though. It was like a completely different fishery. I've never seen anything like it. Scott was there with me, and I got a pike, and it was only like 13 inches long. We got a lot of 16-inch walleye, which there they have to be 15 inches, so they were just
Nice.
barely keepers, whereas before they were all 21 plus, 22 plus. So that was nice to see that. And we were catching volume fish. We were catching bluegills and perch that weren't keepers.
Did anything look different?
No, it's
The
exactly
water-
the same, where there's like all sand in the whole lake and then patches of weeds that are ultra thick that you could never cast into, but if you can get on the edge of them, you're good.
Yeah.
And you're fishing deep holes.
I wonder if maybe the DNR stocks.
I watched the
No?
stocking reports. They had been, but they had been for years, and there was no sign of the fishery
Well,
turning
maybe
around.
they started 3 years ago, and it's like
Well, that's
now
what I'm
is the
saying is-
peak.
Now I'm seeing the babies come up, which is cool. Like seeing small bluegills in there is something I never saw before. But we ended up getting, in the one night out, Scott and I, in 2 hours of fishing, throwing Mr. Twisters on spinners with 2 little jig heads, like a half ounce. We caught a crappie that was a keeper, a perch that was a keeper, 5 walleye, 3 of which were keepers. The other 2 were just barely under. And
You
then
have to squeeze the tail and
the pike, right? The pike, and so we were catching. It was awesome. Like we were catching all keepers. And then the following weekend, or then we did all kinds of trout fishing. It's my favorite. Scott and I traipsed
Nice.
back into some areas where like we were walking
Trout.
through. You hate trout fishing. We're walking through. Like
were you going upstream?
waist deep. Yeah, no kidding. We were walking through
What an
waist
idiot.
deep muck to get to the like swamp covered in mosquitoes. I had 30 ticks on me. I got
Wow.
Lyme disease for sure.
No.
But we were mosquitoes out the butt like you've never seen. But then we were getting to these holes.
Were you wearing pants?
I was. It didn't matter because we were in such
Really?
muck you couldn't even see your legs. So he's like, "See, this is why I didn't wear pants. I'm good." I'm like, and I look. There's like 5 leeches on Scott. Just like
Of course.
he's like picking them off.
he
using this
leaves them
bait.
on.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for you. Bloodletting.
Get the bad blood out.
Yeah, so then we, like, but here's the thing. We walked, the one spot we walked 1.75 miles through the most disgusting, horrendous, like, are you sure we're going the right way, garbage I've ever seen in my entire
So
life.
weren't the clean streams we did last year?
That was what you'd end up at. But you'd be
Okay.
back in the, like, miles into state land where nobody's walked for a century.
Just the map for that looked
We get
god
back
awful.
there, though, dude, every hole. The one time we had 16 fish over 10 inches. Brook trout.
Wow.
16 over 10.
Nice.
I mean, my biggest up is only 12 inches. And I tied my best on 4 different fish. And that was just me. Scott had like almost double what I had.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was, but getting there, I was like, this is terrible. The guys would hate it, but it was so cool being in this water, and it's like you're feeling the water. Is this too warm, or is it cold enough to actually hold trout? And then you're casting in, and like every cast is like this like you're talking,
Wow.
12-inch brook trout like this, like that big around.
Jeez.
Brook trout, and it was like, but he's like, dude, if we go to the UP or Canada or whatever, like they're all that big, but in Michigan, this is a big deal. Like you only have to have a 7-incher to be a
I was
keeper.
just saying, I think I remember 7 being the.
But it was so friggin' like it's so rewarding. Like once you do it, and you go back and you're all bug bitten, and then you got to walk all the way back, and then we got a little lost because the phones died and we didn't bring
Oh,
a
no.
compass, and the usual.
Yeah.
You didn't bring a compass?
Nah,
Scott didn't bring a compass?
Yeah.
he didn't forget. And the whole way out there, he's like, "We're gonna get lost." He normally wears it right here. He's just a little ball one, total
Yep.
nerd move.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
And then
Got it in a quarter machine.
What an idiot to bring a compass. Oh, we need it? Oh, man.
thank God we got that compass. Then after that, we went to the following weekend. We went up to his cabin, and the crappie were in. We had 100 crappie, and
That's a good lake for crappie.
in 3 hours we had 100 crappie that were
what?
yeah 100 on. Now a lot of them
because
though
we weren't filming.
were just barely too small. So then I was like, all right, well I want to try for snapping turtle. So then at night it's not snapping turtle season, so you can't keep them, but you can catch them, release or whatever. And I caught a snapping turtle with my hands in the water.
Dude.
At dark? At nighttime?
But we got him to come under that light. So he's got a light on the water. And I was all proud of myself. Like, we got it, and he's like, my dad's been throwing scraps in there for them for a week, so they're. I was like, I brought him in. I'm so smart.
Still, you caught it in the dark.
Don't they have
Pete pets him. It's fine.
I put pictures, but dude, we had 3 of them, and one of them didn't do his nails. If you look at the picture on our Instagram, go there right now, the Green Outdoors, or Facebook, and you look at the picture. I said the only thing I can think of is imagine if we painted this turtle's nails. His nails were this long. It's funny because normally with snapping turtles, you can grab them and lift them up out of the water, and you're straight. Because you can grab the shell and they can't get at you in any way, shape, or form.
They can't reach around and get you?
No.
They might a little at the back end, but they can't reach to do real damage.
He's talking about his mouth. It's like they don't think of going that direction.
I've seen them
with their mouth.
I've always been told to lift them by the tail.
I feel bad. I think they don't like it.
Anytime, because we have ponds right around our house.
Yeah.
Anytime they've been like,
because
they'll
people
crawl
hold
through our
them
yard.
like that.
I've always caught them by their tail.
Yeah, I just don't.
Because I've seen them.
It drops. You're like,
Because I know the shell doesn't get them, but anyhow, I'm holding them, and we caught 3 that night. Okay, all of them are almost the same size, but this one guy had nails. Well, he was the first one we got. I was like, I know if I grab the shell here, he can't get me. But because his nails were so long, he could get me no matter where I was. And he's going, and Scott's trying to take the picture. I go, I'm just going to set him on the ground. So I set him on the dock, and I'm trying to hold him there, and he's going, and I'm like trying to hold him still. I go, just get the picture. So the picture is me.
Hurry up.
The picture is like the fakest smile you ever saw with me, and he's not even looking at the camera. He's being a total jerk about it. Henry, I named him.
Nice.
And but all 3 had over 13-inch carapaces, which means that if we film a turtle hunting episode,
what's a carapace?
Carapace is the shell.
Okay.
And the length of it has to be at least 13 inches, I believe, 12 or 13 to keep
diameter. Yep.
In at its biggest point. And so knowing that we have 3 that are keepable, that are going to be coming in there, so I told his dad, I said, don't feed him anymore. Because I don't know where the laws lie in like the fact that you've been baiting them over the last 2 years.
Is he doing that to catch them or just to feed them?
No, he just likes the turtles. They like to
he
look
named
at
them.
them.
They're his pets.
So we're gonna eat them.
Kyle harassed him.
Oh yeah.
So, but it's cool to like get one. I think it'd be real neat to film an episode. I'm thinking for one of the possible secondary episodes would be
do some turtle soup.
Yeah.
I've heard that's actually really good.
Yeah, and
I'm ready. We've been talking about it for years, and I've got a recipe ready. I'm good.
I've heard Jeff talk about it for quite some time.
People purge them. Don't
getting
they?
weird about it.
Don't people?
Like lobster?
It's kind of like the crawdads we did, where you put them in a
fresh water
tank. You fill it with water. They like drink the water, kind of cleans themselves out. You clean it out. They puke.
I think they puke. I know crawdads do.
Why are they puking?
Because it's like the clean water is a shock to their system. That's what causes the crawdads to puke up the stuff and poop out the stuff.
Well, I thought they were just pooping. They're puking too.
They're puking too. Now I feel terrible. But they do that to get them to clean out their system because apparently the taste is night and day. And I mean, when you look at, I normally don't I shouldn't say normally. I used to not subscribe to things like that and be like, it's probably not that big a deal. But ever since I started dry aging ducks and I learned what that did, I don't ever want to take it.
Regular duck is gross now.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, now I do taste the pond taste compared to what it is. You look up something over there, Jack?
Yeah.
What's his name? What's his name in the Joe Rogan where he's like, hey,
Jamie,
can you look that up?
So, snapping turtle talk reminded me of this. An alligator caught in Alabama.
Yeah, that's the same.
To be over, thought to be over 100 years old and weighing 200 pounds.
100 years old?
Look at this thing. I wish we could show them the pictures of this.
Oh, that's an alligator snapping turtle, to be clear. But I think you're going to have to use your close camera in order to show the audience what you're looking at. So show that camera there.
See if I can pull it up. There we go.
But
does it work?
Does it work?
I
like
very professional.
You see it?
I mean, you can tell that he did the thing where they like put it closer to the camera than you, so that way it looks bigger, like with fish.
Yeah.
But that's It's still no joke. That's a
Well,
big...
200-pound turtle.
That's a dinosaur.
What was the tortoise that we heard about that was like over 200? It was documented 160 years ago or something like that, or it was some stupid number.
Not the one you're thinking of that was trapped, right?
I was thinking one that they lost in the attic and then it survived.
No.
No, what's the island's called where it's like the guy survival of the
Galapagos?
fittest? Yeah, Galapagos.
Yeah, one of us is
Tortoise.
saying it wrong, but I think it's me. Anyhow.
You mean the Galapagos Islands?
Anyhow, but yeah, this one tortoise apparently it's the longest known land animal, longest length of life. But yeah, 100 years. Did they kill it or did they let it go?
Jeez.
I don't know.
There's an old.
I hope they let it go.
I don't think that'd make good soup.
There's an old Cajun tradition that the people will go out, and as like an honor to the alligator season, they'll go and catch an alligator snapping turtle with their hands, and then do some sort of prayer or something. And then that's like how they kick off the season. Like they earn the right to go after the alligator because
Interesting.
they honored the great turtle.
That sounds like some sort of Native American practice.
Isn't the Wyandottes the turtle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord
like
knows
the-
if we went into some ceremony or something like that, Ryan would pick up the. He would touch the wrong stuff and get yelled at.
I didn't know.
When we were in.
It was just a pile of coins.
Tell him that story real quick.
We went into it was like a voodoo shop, like gimmick. It was a gimmicky store in New Orleans, and they had
There's
this.
a voodoo shop.
They had this thing on the wall with all this weird stuff on it, and it was like a pile of a whole bunch of coins.
My man walks up. All the candles are on there. It's
Yep.
obviously an altar. He walks right up to it and starts picking
Weren't
up
there
everything.
signs?
There were
There
signs.
was signs. The guy
this
freaks
big.
out.
Yeah.
The guy freaks out on
He's
Ryan.
been waiting all day.
We weren't even in there 2 minutes.
Somebody touch him.
That's why they have security there.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally because there's Ryans out there who go up and touch the altar.
I didn't know, and I touched it. Well, then something happened a few minutes later, or just before that. I got yelled at for something.
Snapchatting in the museum.
Oh yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though it said don't use
The
your
Museum of Death, we get a 15-minute lecture on how do not use your phones because their whole gimmick is that the Museum of Death is that everything they have you can only see there, it's not online.
Yep.
So they don't want people in there with cameras. So
Sharing
Ryan,
it.
4 minutes into the tour, is Snapchatting with some woman and takes a picture of himself, and the guy's like, "Guy,
If I
if I have to tell you again,
You're out.
I'm like, Ryan, 4 minutes, man."
phone. Am I crazy?
be
we're not going to be here long.
To be fair though, it was just my face in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, you weren't doing it to be. You didn't. I think in your head you just were like, "Well, I'm not going to take pictures of an item. I'm just taking pictures."
no.
What's with you kids? I know you're 20 now, so you're an old man. But what's with every 23 and under person sending the weirdest Snapchats of like their face, just like of their nose and up or their forehead, and that's how
I
you
don't
guys
know,
like
that's what we do.
communicate.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
how
yeah.
we all. Yeah, but no one cares. They're not like. Because
Dissecting
it's a way
the
of
picture.
talk. Yeah.
I come
It's
from
just
the
a way of talk-
generation
I'm
of.
with you.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God.
So that's just the thing. But
That's
he
true.
didn't say a reason. Like what?
Yeah. Why?
That's what we do, but it's like we use Snapchat just to talk, so we're not gonna like set out to like take a great photo.
But
to send
there's a text option in Snapchat.
You don't have to.
yeah, but
So
it's
you
more,
respond
it's
with
more
something and it's
it's
just
more
big.
personal to like send your face
To look up your nose, and it's not your
Yeah.
face. You all do like one eye and stuff. It's like crooked.
I don't like those ones, but I do like the half face up.
You always make the
Categories.
ugliest face possible, and you go.
yeah, dude.
He does. He makes
It's so
funny. It
Has
is really
bogeys.
funny. He's like
Up his nose.
every time. It is pretty funny.
That's great.
So, to get into a real topic, because oh my gosh, did we go? But I also went to Caseville, and we went with Scott and I went with Elisa and a bunch of her family and friends and stuff like that. We get up there, and him and I snuck away in the mornings to go fish the breakwall,
Romantic.
which is right where.
Romantic.
Don't start. Which is where me and Scott got to sneak away. Scott and I snuck away from the girls, and we went to the breakwall where we were ice fishing for lake trout.
Nice.
In Caseville there, right by
was
the
that
church.
Caseville?
Yep.
I didn't- okay.
So we walked out to the edge there, and we fished right where we were, and we caught everything under the sun. We caught big sheep's heads. We caught pike. Scott had a huge pike, break him off. Caught a small pike, rock bass, perch. We saw some guy catch a burbot, which I'd never seen a burbot before.
Don't know what
so
that
was
one
pretty
is.
cool.
Sounds like
Apparently,
someone
it's a
poorly saying the word rabbit.
yeah, it's a poor man's lobster. Apparently, a burbot.
Did you find my battery?
And they're like, I didn't
Lobster
find the
was poor
battery.
man's.
I didn't find the very expensive battery I paid money for that you dropped in the water. No, I did not.
Water should be clear enough.
Yeah, water should be. It was still pretty clear, but that's like a channel, like right up the thing there is where all the people launch their boats. So it's so cool to see it
Yeah.
in the summer versus
Okay.
yeah, and like
so different.
Oh yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
marina.
so there are a lot of boats
yeah,
out
it was
there?
like by a marina, and I like where the water level is really high right now. So like where we used to walk, where that platform was, where it's like the bricks or whatever, how we would like walk down that, you know, that was all underwater. And they were talking about how high the water levels were because of it. But we caught a ton of fish there. And then we did the Tip of Thumb River, where we took the girls and we did a canoeing trip. And they just laid out, and then Scott and I fished the whole way. But
You put the worm on the hook for him?
no, they didn't. Oh, they weren't fishing. They were laying out in the sun, just complaining every time I ended up in shade. Elise's like, "Can you move me over?"
Oh, you guys are on the same one?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, "Can you give me?" God, I hate girls. Girls are gross. They got cooties. So no, and then Scott was with Sydney, and then there was just a bunch of people up there. But it was like getting them in the sun while fishing. But we didn't do very. I caught the cutest smallmouth bass you ever did see. And then we went and we get to this little shot where the Tip of Thumb River comes to a point with Lake Huron, and it created like these big sand dunes that go down to this little point, and then there's this little stretch of water that's like ripping because the whole river's dumping right there, right?
Okay.
And whole river's dumping into Lake Huron. So what we would do is we take we didn't have any live bait, but everybody there is on this little, I mean, no joke, is from me to AJ away wide, but like 7 foot deep, and just a channel right there, and the water's whipping, and everybody was using live bait. There's like 30 people fishing in this
Tiny little hole.
tiny stretch of hole. Everybody's casting in, everybody's catching fish except us, and that's because they were all using live. They all knew exactly how to fish that exact hole, and they caught so many suckers and smallmouth. That's what everyone was catching. So it's kind of cool to see that.
Okay. But you guys still didn't get anything?
Well, no. Well, Scott got one on a jig head and a Mr. Twister, but they were using big sinkers to just sit on the bottom and just have their bait in the current, whereas like we're working lures through it, making everyone hate us.
Oh, yeah.
I said, how funny would it be to just be the guy that swims through that little sorry. Watch your lines. And just like
Everyone's pulling them.
yeah, or like swim under and cut everybody's line, and everybody comes up at once. Like, what happened?
That'd be awesome.
That's how when I was just down in North Carolina, the piers, like
Yeah.
and the beaches and everything.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Is it?
That, and people are like doing that, swimming through it, through lines and everything, and they're like these people are pulling up sharks.
Super.
Like I've seen that before.
Off
Like,
of,
like sharks
off
like
of
this.
land?
No,
Like a pier,
like
but-
the pier goes out into
but-
the water, but there's like
Okay,
people
yeah.
under the pier swimming and everything, and there's lines and hooks all like dangling from the pier. It's like, how can you be anywhere near that? They're
No, that's not fun swimming conditions.
no, not at all.
It's actually dangerous. The piers, because the waves are undercurrents or whatever might
yeah.
happen, could toss you right into there, and you knocked out and you're done. Remember, in Daytona Beach, Jeff and I used to go there all the time, like for it's like spring break and stuff. And
You
they've
did
got
that, what, 4 years in a row?
3. They had
Drove there.
Yeah,
Why?
it actually was fun.
No,
Yeah,
it
it's fun.
was fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun drive.
We had a bunch of people with us every time too, and we like rent places right on the water. And then, but there is my favorite restaurant in the world. It's called Krabby Joe's, and it's out on a pier like that. And it's in Daytona Beach, and they got the best crab legs and sandwiches, and they play Bob Marley music, and
Nice.
you can see through the cracks in the wood at the bottom. You can see
nice.
and then around the outside of the restaurant, people are fishing, so you're seeing people catch fish, and there's music, and it's
That's cool.
having a good time.
That's
While
a
you're
good
waiting for your
environment.
food, you can go cast a line out, and then they'll do like a catch and cook thing.
Nice.
So
Those are the
it's
best.
just a blast. But I really enjoyed that place.
That's
I
cool.
would love to do something like that.
Now, speaking of catch and cooks, so I want to transition into our actual topics of the day. This is a philosophical question, and it kind of all goes through an experience Jeff and I had. I've talked about trout fishing. Obviously, I'm passionate about it. You heard me go on about the brook trout and what we'll do to get good brook trout, right? Mm-hmm. Well, on the same token is like, sometimes we'll catch brown trout and rainbows in those different waters that we try, and all of them are exciting. I think brook trout are the prettiest. I'd say brown trout are second, and I would say rainbow are third, which is probably the opposite of what you would think based on the names.
That's a good point.
But
what was your number one?
brookies. When
Brookies?
they have
Okay.
that peach-colored fire
Yeah, no,
belly.
I like
It's a
it
little
too.
white stripe.
Yeah, they're
Some
just.
of the pictures you took of them were beautiful.
Yeah, I got that one in the water.
Yeah.
It took a few. There's like 19, but that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean, that
Yeah,
is.
it was good.
And he was in the water, and the water's so clear. AJ's like, wait, he was in the water? I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
underwater. It's that clear. But anyhow, we'll go through all stretches in all manner. Now, when we're doing that, we're using ultralight tackle. So you're using small rods, 6-foot ugly sticks that are ultralight with little tiny lures. And when you hook into a 10-inch brook trout, your day is made. You're catching oh God, your pole's bent in half. He's fighting. You're like trying to keep him out of the wood, and you have to do that to kind of trick the fish with that ultralight tackle in those areas. Because if you use big thick line, they're not going to bite. They're too darn smart for that. You're hunting fish when you're brook trout fishing.
They're skittish.
Now we go steelhead fishing. AJ, you were there.
Oh yeah.
Filming this. Ryan, you weren't there yet. Look at that brown trout. I mean, can you beat that fish? How beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So we're out fishing, and Jeff catches this. Great job, Ryan.
Caught that one.
Basically,
No, it wasn't that big.
Jeff catches a monster brown trout, though. Okay, but we're out steelhead fishing. So we're doing a manner called drifting, where you basically go over a hole, you drop a bobber in the water, and you allow it to drift over. You're using huge tackle. You're using huge stiff poles, and the fight is
sacks.
for these giant, with the spawn sacks, for these giant steelhead that can be, this big. They're huge. They're big fish. So you're trying to catch these big fish, so you're using big tackle.
We hadn't caught a fish yet.
No, so Jeff hooks into a fish, and he's like, well, it's got to be a small one. It's not big, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not a good-sized fish. It might not even be a fish. Brings it up, they net it. Turns out it's a brown trout. That's a rainbow trout and or steelhead right there. Steelhead is actually a migratory form of rainbow trout. That looks like a steelhead. It's a big fish. That's not a huge one. That would be a giant rainbow or a small steelhead. I don't know which. But anyhow, Jeff brings up this fish, and it's only 16 inches long.
Still the biggest.
And I was like...
It was 18, and it's the biggest trout I ever caught, other than a lake trout.
It was 18, yeah.
It was 18 inches. Brown trout. Super awesome fish. If we caught that fish when we were brook trout fishing or brown trout fishing with light tackle, we would have been celebrating naked, lighting off fireworks, punching people in the face.
I don't know.
What I'm saying is,
I love it.
The value of that fish would have been so tremendous. It would have been overwhelming in every way. It's all we'd talk about. I'd be looking for reasons to bring it up. We would have already mentioned it 50 times on a podcast.
Definitely.
But that day, we were drifting in a boat with giant tackle. He didn't even know that he caught a fish for sure because the tackle was so heavy he barely felt it. Brought it in. It wasn't the target species. And the value of that fish just wasn't there.
I felt so weird because I'm like, I should be so excited right now, and I am, and I'm not.
I think we did we keep
I
that
don't know
fish?
if we did.
Yes, I ate it.
Okay. Yeah, we ate it.
It was wonderful.
So, but the point was, I was like, I remember that day something triggered in my head. Why is it that fish didn't have a tremendous value to us at the time? It was like, and they weren't even, it's a nice brown. I'm going to put it in. Yeah, you can keep it. It's above keeper. And it was like, that was just, then we got a steelhead, and it was tremendous, and it was the greatest deal. And then I was thinking about lake trout fishing. We went trolling for lake trout with a guide one time because we didn't know what we were doing yet. We go trolling for lake trout. We limited in 45 minutes for 5 people. 5 limits in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was cool, but it's like, there's something about trolling. The pod it goes off, and
it's your turn. Now
it.
it's your turn. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like there's no. You bring them in. It's like, okay, cool. We caught a decent sized laker, but not as big as those ones, when we were ice fishing. And catching them on a tip up when the flag goes. It was the most incredible, exhilarating experience of my entire life. I was like, this is the biggest deal ever. Oh my gosh.
Your hand bringing it in.
I mean, it was like, oh my God, we got our first one. Oh, don't let the line break, because you had to use a light tackle and all this. It's just incredible, especially after 3 days of fishing.
Just one.
Yes, we just get one.
How cool would it be if we just got one?
They're making fun of me because every time we're fishing, we don't have something, or we need one more for an episode.
He said that at least, I would say, 500 times over those 3 days.
And it's in this voice too. That's just like,
guys, how cool!
Just one. It's like crying. It's like crying, but not crying.
Please, God.
You just need one. You guys. How cool would it be if one came in and did this thing, like right in 3, 2, 1.
Hoping for a
he does
miracle.
that countdown.
I do that, don't I?
Never.
One day
never,
it's gonna happen.
Never has it worked once. I don't know. I've been fishing with him for probably
It
15,
may happen
20 years now, and it hasn't happened yet.
It may be a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
It could be. But yeah, it's sad. But I do that. But the point is, the lake trout through the ice. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's from the camera guys. That's from you. That's from me. That's from everybody we're with. The lake trout catching it that way was the most tremendous thing in the entire planet, and I was so excited about it.
I think it's because so much work got put into doing that one.
Maybe it has to
fish.
do with the work, but it's also like, how rare it is. Because then we go to Texas, and we were just talking about that. Crappie fishing. You go crappie fishing in Michigan, I catch a 12-incher. I'm calling my dad. It's a big deal. Catch a 12-incher in Texas, it's another keeper. You throw in the pile, and it's no big deal. You just keep going.
I remember you like freaking out like these things.
I'm
are
like,
huge.
this has to be a big deal to us.
My first experience
me.
with crappie, so I'm like, oh, okay.
You caught one too, remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The guy that was with us was like, yeah, it's great. Keep going.
But the point is, I'm just trying to like put a finger on it. Like, why? And it's like same thing for hunters. It's like guys that get gun hunt for a long time. And Pete up north, he's moved to. He's got a it's a 44 Magnum handgun. So now he handgun hunts for deer.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, because it adds he's been hunting for 50 years, so he's adding a bit of challenge to it. Or
Nice.
guys that are like, oh, bow hunting, the exhilaration of getting one with a bow because you got to get close and it's harder.
Ted Nugent.
Right, is so much better than a gun. And it's like, why is it these fish or these animals have different values based on how they're procured? Because again, the lake trout, that brown trout was like, that day was where it triggered for me. I'm like, there's a different value depending on how you get them. Mm-hmm. And that's such a weird thing, especially for people that are outside of the industry of like, they, you know, if you're talking to, you know, someone that's never, like my mom, never hunted or fished in her life, and I'm like, I got this duck. She goes, that's huge. That's awesome. I'm like, yeah, but, you know, it's, we were just trolling for him. It wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to the amount of work you put in for it and the failure rate. Your failure rate is how much you'll care about it.
There's something with walleye, too. You catch a walleye casting for them on a Rapala in an inland lake, and you get a walleye, you're making a big deal about it. You go in the Detroit River, you expect to catch your limit.
Yeah.
It's like what the expectations are, too. It's not just as simple as whether it's hard or not. But every hunter and every fisherman out there listening right now is like, yeah, I get it. There is... But like, it's either how rare it is, it's how hard it was to get. There's a
combination
if there's like
things.
one fish in this entire lake.
But here's the weird thing.
You get it.
Everybody agrees on whatever it is. As soon as I was like, dude, we iced fish for those lake trout, everyone's like, you did what? Or, dude, we caught that brown trout on ultralight tackle. They're like, oh, man, I bet that had to be a rush. Whereas if we tell people we caught a brown trout while drifting for steelhead, they're like,
Yeah.
So it wasn't as
Everyone
big as
gets
the
it.
steelhead that you caught. Well, yeah, I guess, but still the biggest trout. No, okay.
Everyone gets it.
All right, I guess.
Now, speaking about fish, so when I look at fishing in general, there's a new law that's coming, or it's being voted on. And I know less about the law than I should, but essentially what's happening is people that are doing commercial harvest of fish that catch game species that otherwise they wouldn't be able to keep. So let's say, I think it's includes lake trout, yellow perch, walleye. So these are fish that are protected that can't be sold for commercial use in certain instances. And I don't know that that's the exact species that I'm talking about, but or in this situation. But essentially, it's game fish that you're only allowed to catch and keep for yourself. You're not allowed to sell or redistribute it, or it's not for commercial catch.
Okay.
Now, up until now, if they would catch them as bycatch, they'd have to release them even if they were dead. Okay? They'd have to let them go. They couldn't be caught dead. They couldn't be caught dead with them. Yeah.
Nice.
Now, the reason being is because we don't want them to ever be commercially fished, because that's it. Now, the commercial fishermen have come out and said, well, hold on a sec. What if we catch them and they're going to die? Just let us keep those ones and then sell those ones, because it's a waste otherwise. Mm-hmm. And that, like, from a topical standpoint, that makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? Nothing goes to waste. And then I got to thinking, when I was up north with Scott at his place, we went casting for pike and carp. He catches a pike. Now, it turned out to be 26 inches. But he gill hooked that pike. It got in the pike because of the way the current was and stuff like that. The pike was able to swallow the hook, got in the gills. That fish was going to die. Mm-hmm. And they die like... They're going to die in that situation, period. There's a lot of blood coming out of him and stuff like that. No,
So Scott's a monster is what you're saying.
No, because he was 26 inches and we could keep him. Yep. So it's no big deal. Now, here's the thing. I was like, doggone it. Imagine if that fish was 23 inches.
Yeah.
You're going to kill it for sure. And I would go as far to say that the laws leave no room for morals or morality. And the reason being is because... If I catch
the ones currently or the ones being voted on?
The ones currently.
Okay.
Because having it a size limit thing. Okay, and I got a whole other side of this because I got two. I can play. I'm playing devil's advocate right now. It leaves no room for morals, because if I'm a fisherman, I just gut hooked to this fish. It's a 23-inch pike. It's got to be 24 inches to keep legally. But man, he's going to die.
That's happened.
Step on it, smush it out.
Yeah, stretch him out. Just yank him on him. But the point is, he's not...
Okay, all right.
He's not a legal fish. You're not allowed to keep him. But you're going to put this fish back that's going to die. And that's jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's like, I agree.
You know where you're going with it. I know.
No, but it's how do you control? Like how is so and so going to know that fish was hooked in the down here, and when you get it out, I mean, chances of survival are very minimal. 'Cause it's happened to us filming plenty of times.
Right, when I'm like, get me the pliers and turn the cameras off.
Yeah,
because it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the reality.
Because he was short enough not to keep, but he's gonna
die.
Perish.
Right. So now we got to let him go back in the ice fishing hole, and you know he's gonna die. So here's the thing. But then there's the alternative side. People aren't honest.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks, because people catch a 23-inch pike and they're like, well, I want to keep it. I'm just going to say I gut hooked him. He's bash him over the head.
You
or
give
do
them an
this
inch,
or do
they'll
that.
take a mile.
Exactly. And that's the fear. Now, I found out about this article based on somebody in the conservation side of things posting it and saying, make sure you vote no on this law. Don't let this happen. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, imagine being the commercial fisherman out there, and every day you see the X amount of walleye, or X amount of this fish, or X amount of that fish. Again, I don't know what species it was specifically. Get these on accident, and they're like, man, they're going to die. It's not fair to these fish to throw them back, these carcasses. It's stupid. Why don't we sell them? But at the same time, if we allow them to do that, those fish have severe, like, big value. Do you know how much walleye costs? Like $22 a pound if you go to the store.
Really?
It's insanity. You go to a restaurant, you're looking at $20 a plate. Yeah, you take it for granted because you get it for free from us all the time.
I must.
Yeah, but the point is, like, deer backstraps, buffalo, duck. I mean, you're talking high dollar items. Crawdaddy dads, like we were
those
catching
are
up
huge.
in Louisiana.
It's $14 a pound for that stuff.
I know.
Oh yeah.
Good God.
It's so we as hunters and fishermen, we get to take advantage of that, and the value is high because commercially you're not allowed to keep them for the most part. So the point is, do we allow these commercial fishermen to start keeping these fish and trusting them 100% that they're not going to start targeting them? Keep in mind, we overfished for generations the Great Lakes and put them in this terrible situation that they were in for a while, and it was because we changed the laws so they couldn't do commercial fishing, that the fishery came back, and through conservation dollars and efforts, people buying fishing licenses, protecting the species, putting in size limits, bag limits, these sorts of things are what protect the species to bring it back. So if I'm looking at both sides of the coin, it's really sad, but I have to vote no on this.
Yeah,
You
just
have
like
to-
what Jeff said. You give them an inch, and
They go from, I got 2 trout as a bycatch to now I got 100. It just happened I got more this time. It's crazy.
It makes me really sad to say, because I've been in a situation where I had to release a fish knowing full well he wasn't going to make it.
but maybe it's better that way because the fish is either going to be eaten by.
That's what I was just gonna say.
So maybe
That's another great point. There's that.
It goes back into the ecosystem. Something's
Yeah.
gonna
It's
take
not gonna
care
go
of
to
that
waste.
fish.
Yeah.
So I mean, that kind of is a benefit.
Yeah.
It sucks that the fish had to die, but in some natural way, that fish will be taken care of.
Now, here's the thing, though. I challenge the DNR to, is they have to watch their stuff then, where they're stocking, where those size limits are put in place. We fished in a lake called Lake Lancelot up in Sugar Springs. Now, in Lake Lancelot, it's completely private property. You can't get on it unless you live on the lake.
Key card to get in.
Yeah, and on that lake, they've made the limit of pike in Michigan right now is 2 pike per person, and they can only be 24 or above. Now, on this lake, they can be any size whatsoever, and you can keep up to 5 of them. And that's because they have too many pike in them, and it's privately maintained. I think that I'm not saying the DNR does does anything wrong with the fisheries, but I'm saying is like they owe it to us to make damn sure they're doing a really good job of maintaining it, so that in these situations where I'm saying it shouldn't be such a broad law, it should almost matter, like trout fishing, every stretch of every river, I'm talking each stretch. So the Boardman has 18 different sets of laws on it based on how big a brook trout has to be on this stretch, how big a brain on this stretch, because they maintain it that well. And to be honest with you, all lakes should be that way.
Yeah, make each lake. It'd be hard to maintain each lake because there's so much in.
Because then they would
Michigan.
need more funding and more people, and it's very easy for me to say that. But imagine the research that has to go into each lake to know But what if they created like a community chat room thing for all the people that live on the lake to help gather data? And I think a lot of people that live on the lake that fish it would be happy to turn in that data and say, this is what I'm seeing if it's going to make their fishery better.
Well, that's what happened with, like, in Michigan with woodcock banding. The DNR didn't have the money to fund actual employees of the DNR to go out and research timberdoodle or woodcock, whatever you call
Sure.
them. And so they kind of privatized it, but the DNR runs it, and it's all volunteer-based, where volunteers from all over the state go to this one central meeting and learn how to do it and use their dogs properly and take count of the chicks and where they're hatching, what locations they're at.
Just like you going up north. You take count of all the chicks. And
Yep, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, just
and
like
then, and then we tag them.
Yeah. And we lost our female viewership.
Explain.
Yeah, explain.
Go ahead. How do you tag them?
But yeah, they made it volunteer driven, and it worked out great, and they've been able to accomplish a lot of things through that. So I agree with you that if they did try to do it volunteer based, there'd be a lot of people who'd be into trying to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's a lot of forums that you can go on, and there's data. You just
But there's no
together.
organized platform.
Yeah.
Right.
And see, that's where the wild game dinners come in. We're going to have about 6 wild game dinners next year. And what we're going to do is we're going to partner with the Sportsman Alliance and the DNR, where the Sportsman Alliance is basically who protects your laws. So if they somebody makes bear hunting illegal in New Jersey, they're the ones that go in and fight it. Okay? They're the ones that protect us from a law standpoint. And then the DNR is the ones, they're supposed to be the science and the enforcers of the science from a law standpoint where you are. And the wild game dinners are meant to create a conversation where we'll host it, and it'll be myself and Jeffrey with someone from the DNR, someone from the Sportsman Alliance, and someone local that represents the body in that area of people
within the community.
Within the community. And then everyone in the audience, the 500 plus people that'll be there, will be able to write questions, comments, and concerns that they have in their area. And then I'll be able to facilitate the conversation with the DNR and the Sportsman Alliance to give them the voice to actually have that. But I'm calling for a next level thing, and I think it's going to end up being us that probably does it. Knowing the Green Bay Outdoors team, we'll probably put it together inside of 2 weeks without any sleep. But what we'll do is we'll create that opportunity, because Ted Nugent came on last week, and he was very boisterous about problems that he has with the DNR. And to be honest with you, it's like you'd be hard pressed to argue with him when he says, why is it okay to hunt by an apple tree, but it's not okay to put apples in a spot where deer might come to?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's a
Well, that's
damn
the
good question.
same thing we were just talking about. People take advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, people take advantage of a tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dumb. And
You
then
get the people dumping
and then
truckloads
like
of apples.
the cranes thing, the Sandy cranes. We are not allowed to hunt cranes in Michigan, but farmers are allowed to kill them, but they're not allowed to eat them.
Leave them.
They just have to kill them for crop damage. When we have a huntable population here, if you put a season and maintained it, you'd raise money for the conservation of the species, and people would be able to hunt them, and it'd be a great balance. And then the meat wouldn't go to waste, and everything would be fantastic. But they haven't done that. So these are concerns that people would be able to voice. Now, I want to subscribe to the idea that the DNR does a good job, and they're good people, and that there's just not enough of them, and there's not enough funding, and that funding is dwindling every year. So if we can create the forum where they're held accountable, but that helps them, hopefully they see it that way.
That's true.
Listen, here's what we'll do for you. We'll put a situation in place where there's a forum where we can interact freely for each county in each state. It's a lot to maintain, AJ. You're going to be busy. But the idea is that people can bring up their questions and comments and concerns, because I'm sorry, but how do you argue what I just said about the cranes? And how do you argue about what I said about the apple tree? And I'm sure they will. But let's hear your argument.
Yeah.
And let's work together to make sure.
Instead of a public announcement.
Unfortunately, for the DNR, like, I've been misunderstood a lot in my life. So many times. So maybe they're being misunderstood on some of these things. Let's hear the side of it. So I think our forum with the wild game dinners, and hopefully all of you tuning in will be happy to go.
Right.
Come eat some awesome wild game, hang out with us, and we'll be selling gear and T-shirts and taking pictures and doing all kinds of fun stuff there. And we'll also be streaming it live through NRM streams. Mm-hmm. But the idea is to give that forum so that the DNR can actually make the right choices, and it's up to us as free citizens to hold them accountable. We buy the licenses with complete faith, and listen to the 10% of every crowd is the loudest. Any group of people, the 10% that's the loudest is often the dumbest. And there's probably, of course, nobody's perfect all around the board. So I think it'd be cool to give them an opportunity to right any wrongs. Because I doubt they're like going to work like, let's
really
screw these people.
guys over,
Let's try and mess up the ecosystem.
Right, and they might not necessarily, like they have their website, but not necessarily a platform to really voice themselves properly in such like a free format.
Right. So, power lines in Nebraska, they're going to be marked with UV lights to deter collisions.
Yeah.
Ryan, that's the extent of what I know.
Yeah.
So you put this together. What do you got?
Yeah, so I don't know. I found it pretty interesting that...
It better be. No, just kidding.
Nice.
In Nebraska, where they have a high population of sandhill cranes, I guess, they've been colliding with power lines and killing themselves.
Yeah.
And so they've been trying to figure out ways to deter them from running into these power lines and killing themselves.
Like, Ted Nugent was talking about the windmills, and that birds were just dying and rapidly flying into them. And I was like, man, I thought I can't get them to fly into my decoys for the life of me. But they're like,
Well, you watch
they have
the
a red
windmill
light.
spin so slow. It's like, but apparently they just fly right into it.
Tons of them.
That's quite the timing.
And like the power lines, what are you, stupid?
I did watch a goose fly into a power line once, and it just, there was
Didn't
a
it
loud
knock out power at
bang.
your work?
It knocked out power, and this is when I was working at that office, and it dropped. So I go out there and look at it. It blew a hole in its chest. It ran into, I think, the transformer, just like,
Oh, yeah.
it's not moving.
Like
if
Home
you
Alone.
run into that,
Yeah.
that's totally
Exactly.
your fault. I don't.
You're going to miss your flight just like
But,
Home Alone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But, so it does happen, I guess is what we're getting at. This
Yes.
is a real anomaly.
Yes, so I guess it happens quite often out there, and they were trying to figure out ways to deter them from running into the lines. And so they started by just putting lights on the actual poles and hoping that the light would run down the wires because it reflects
A little
off.
bit of reflection.
Yeah, but that wasn't necessarily working. So then they moved to UV lights, which we can't see. Well, people were complaining about the lights because there were so many and it was so bright.
Well, at least the birds can see them. Jeez.
Okay.
Well, then so they went back to work and researched it, and they figured out because the sandhill cranes can see at a lower frequency than we can, the light is brighter and they can see it better than we can, so it doesn't necessarily bother other people, but they can see it. And they saw a 98% decrease in collisions.
Awesome.
That which is pretty incredible.
Yeah,
After they
it
put them
fixed
up.
it.
Yeah. So
fixed it.
So it worked for sandhill cranes, and I guess they're going to continue research to see if it works on other birds.
Will that work on windmills, you think?
Well, they're going to try that. They're going to put them on cell towers, and they're going to see how many other birds it works on and keep studying it because they could save millions probably of birds over the years.
Another argument is that the windmills also change flight patterns. So, like, the fields that you would hunt because they're coming off the water, they're coming off the fields or whatever it
Windmills
is.
change flight pattern?
Yeah, because they fly around them would be the idea. So, like, instead of a duck, like, let's say ducks are coming in, like, migrating from the north, and they're coming south, instead of, like, going to the fields completely covered in windmills, they're going off of that to go to other bodies of water or other fields.
And
And
there's never just one. There's usually a big group of them, so they're going wide around it and might miss.
And then
fields.
then the other idea is like well, you've been there on opening day, Point Mouillet,
Yeah.
or Harson's Island, those places where there's big duck management stuff. If you're deterring the ducks away from those areas, that's not
good.
That's not good because they put all of our resources into making those places good stops like the refuge where they can stop and eat and build up and hide from hunters because you can't hunt them inside the refuge to give them the build up to continue their flight south. And if you should deter them from that, from going there because of this, then what does that mean? And the other idea is literally flying into them and dying, which I couldn't believe, but it's the case. I guess if they hit power lines, something moving is even a harder variable.
It's like like Jeff said, like how do you hit it?
Right.
You know, but
Ryan
it's an
found
animal.
that, was it like a hawk foot?
But I guess
Or
like
something that one
hundreds and thousands of years of doing these flights and never having that be a variable, and then it's a variable. We don't know how much is instinctual, I guess, either.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, this is what we do. Ow. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I think this,
goes to our
as far as the
intelligence.
UV light goes, obviously that pertains more to nighttime because at nighttime they can't see the wires. So
Right.
when they post them, the lights on the post, it runs down the wire, and they can see the length of the wire, and then they know just to go up.
This one's
or
for
down.
AJ. Can't see the lines, can you, Russ? Christmas vacation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't even give him a chance.
Yeah. Christmas
vacation.
He either knows or he doesn't.
When you said Russ, like I had it, and then I like freaked. I don't have it, and then
Everyone else yelled at their TV. They're like. So, a little bit of an update. NRM Streamcast, which is our home where we film. You see the NRM logo all over us, and that's where we film, and this is where our beautiful studio is. NRM Streamcast is available now through Lightcast on a bunch of different platforms, from Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, all those sorts of things, and you can actually watch it live. So if you go and you go to nrmstreamcast.com and look at all the different ways that you can actually watch us live, and we're actually working up to the
much better
point
live.
where we're going to want to do, because I can't edit out all the stupid things Jeff says, or the swear words.
You're
Ryan
welcome,
says.
audience.
Yeah. But we're also wanting to build it up where our live viewership is higher, so that we can do call-ins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because right now, a majority of our views come through downloads through Spotify, iTunes, or watch us on YouTube, where you can actually see it. Again, this is a video podcast, not just a podcast. So if you're only listening to it, check out all the platforms. Go to nrmstreamcast.com. Also, you can go to our YouTube page if you should miss the live airing. 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, or 6 o'clock on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again on NRM Streamcast, or check out our YouTube channel where you can see it afterwards on demand. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Green Outdoors podcast. Stay green.
Stay green.
Stay green.